unlocking your potential, the untold keys to abundance. Have you ever regarded the Bible as a remarkably thorough roadmap to prosperity? Consider this. Psalm 1, right from the outset, lays down a vibrational pattern more potent than any business school curriculum, motivational guru, or quick profit scheme. For years, I analyzed the lives of top achievers, yet the real breakthrough came one quiet afternoon with an aged Bible in hand. I realized that genuine change, from lack to plenty, isn't about chasing the prize but about fortifying your roots. Why do so many toil relentlessly, pursue every opening, yet remain stuck in financial uncertainty and burnout? Is it a shortage of savvy, unlucky breaks, or is there a deeper vibration steering our results? I spent over 2 decades observing global leaders, studying their routines, decisions, and most critically, their mindsets. What I uncovered was astonishing and life-altering. True success doesn't spring from your actions, but from where you're anchored. And that anchor isn't a street address, it's an inner frequency. Psalm 1 reveals this beautifully. It doesn't promise windfalls first, but establishes a spiritual posture, a steady state, portraying someone standing firm like a tree beside flowing waters, with leaves that never fade and endeavors that always flourish. Notice, it doesn't chase prosperity, it simply is prosperous. Its growth is inevitable because its roots draw from the source. Many overlook this vital point. It's not about pursuing abundance, but cultivating the fertile inner soil for it to find you. I've seen million-dollar strategies crumble, and humble individuals with discipline quietly thrive. The difference wasn't in the methods, but in the being. You might wonder, if I'm following all the right steps, why do I still struggle? Ask yourself, where are your roots? Which thoughts feed them? Whose voices occupy your mind when you're alone? Don't be deceived. Your prosperity doesn't depend on markets, employers, or policies. It hinges on your internal resonance. This isn't mere poetry, but spiritual physics. Our thought patterns generate fields that shape our environment. Scientific studies show that what you nurture in silence blossoms in your reality. I know this from personal experience. There was a season when everything seemed aligned. Writing, studying, networking, speaking. But internally, I felt scattered, anxious, impatient, and worn out. Nothing seemed to thrive. Then it hit me. I wasn't anchored. I was leaping from one notion to the next, chasing advice, comparing myself, and rushing the results. Something shifted when I chose to pause, stand firm, and trust that aligning with truth, though unseen and without instant payoff, would let me grow in time. That resolve transformed everything. It rescued my well-being, clarified my purpose, and launched the writing path that now resonates with so many. It wasn't chance, it was a deliberate decision. Perhaps you're reading this because you're ready to make that same choice, a choice rooted within. Just as a tree can't bear fruit off-season, you won't see lasting change without solid roots. Try this for a week. Clear away distractions, negativity, and comparison, and replace them with silence, thoughtful reading, and visualizing a balanced life. Notice how tuning your inner world reshapes your outer circumstances. The mind can achieve whatever it conceives and accepts, but first you must become that which you seek. Too many drift like chaff in the breeze, busy yet directionless, carried by every trend and trivial demand. Unlike shallow husks, a rooted life draws sustenance from something greater. That inner flow isn't about doctrine, but about aligning with your deepest source. When you're grounded there, actions feel effortless. Prosperity becomes purposeful, and real fulfillment grows, not by chasing wealth, but by living your true purpose, sustained by deep roots. If you're trapped in endless effort with no breakthrough, ask yourself, what thoughts are you watering? Scarcity, worry, comparison, or fear? Those inner weeds sap your strength, cloud your vision, and bar your path to abundance. The key move is to detach from what scatters you and anchor in what empowers you. That might mean embracing stillness, letting go of relationships that undermine your hopes, unplugging from noise, and diving into reflective truths. Are you prepared to pay that price? Relinquish urgency, comparison, and the illusion of control, and trust the unseen? As the ancient passage teaches, the steadfast flourish like trees that don't bow to every gust. They endure through faith, and so all they undertake prospers. True abundance isn't a sprint, but a deep calm, a secure rooting that makes plenty an inevitable outcome. You may have the most bulletproof business plan and the sharpest marketing approach, but if your spirit is anchored in fear, doubt, urgency, or self-preservation, your yield will always be sparse. Often truth cuts deeper than any salve. Healing starts with awareness. What have you allowed to sprout in your mind? Genuine prosperity begins with those answers. A tree doesn't flourish because it struggles. It thrives because it's planted in fertile soil at the right frequency and season. Perhaps what's missing isn't more hustle, but more stillness, more honesty, more nurturing ground. Or it's not about piling on tasks, but about cultivating your inner state, turning work into purpose, words into seeds, and days into a harvest. I've seen brilliant people lose their way by equating speed with direction, fast yet circling, brimming with ideas but lacking patience. I too stumbled there. I recall a time when every task felt urgent. Write faster, speak more, produce relentlessly. Yet each step weighed heavier. My outward pace quickened while my inner life drained. In that void, I learned that haste is prosperity's enemy, born of mistrust. When the text speaks of a tree bearing fruit in its own season, it teaches us about timing beyond the clock, inner maturation that cannot be hastened. No root pushes up overnight. No fruit ripens under pressure. Forced growth fractures. Patiently tended life blossoms. How can you trust this rhythm when every signal screams urgency? When peers advance faster, pile on achievements, and you remain waiting? That's the ache of comparison fueled by anxiety, fogging your vision. The problem isn't someone else's timeline. It's using their strides to measure your worth. Too many halt their own breakthroughs because they can't wait, swapping the silence of preparation for the clamor of performance, forgetting that real growth honors life's natural cycle: plant, nurture, grow, then reap. Research shows those who master delayed gratification, waiting for richer rewards, tend to enjoy greater success, better health, and deeper relationships. Patience isn't passivity, it's controlled strength, faith in action. The tree in that ancient passage doesn't struggle to look robust, it simply is strong. While the world whirls around it, it trusts its hidden roots to draw nourishment, confident that its season will come, and that true abundance isn't about dazzling others but about enduring. You may be in a season of waiting, a stalled project, a business not yet launched, an idea still germinating. Anxiety shrieks, "Will this work? Am I falling behind?" Take heart. Those who rush to bloom may shine briefly but rarely sustain their glow. Enduring, transformative success is born of depth, not speed. Clarity, not desperation. That clarity is forged by silencing comparison and trusting the unfolding process day by day. If you've absorbed this so far, something within you is already awakening. Stand firm. Resist abandoning this path. The deeper your roots, the steadier you'll remain when storms hit. Everything you need is already inside you. The ancient passage calls not for raw strength, but for steadfastness. Are you ready? If so, prepare. The harvest will cease to be a distant dream and become a matter of timing, your timing with enduring fruit. Do you perpetually wait for something before conceding peace, as if life itself is always deferred and success forever 2 steps beyond reach? That hidden impatience and quiet restlessness is anxiety camouflaged as productivity. Many confuse frantic motion for progress, only to uproot themselves in the rush. That wisdom text, doesn't praise the sprinter but the one who remains steadfast? Not the impulsive doer, but the person who meditates day and night, deliberately planting thoughts, habits, and convictions. I've seen brilliant people lose their way by equating speed with direction, fast yet circling, brimming with ideas but lacking patience. I too stumbled there. I recall a time when every task felt urgent: write faster, speak more, produce relentlessly, yet each step weighed heavier. My outward pace quickened while my inner life drained. In that void, I learned that haste is prosperity's enemy, born of mistrust. When the text speaks of a tree bearing fruit in its own season, it teaches us about timing beyond the clock, inner maturation that cannot be hastened. No root pushes up overnight. No fruit ripens under pressure. Forced growth fractures. Patiently tended life blossoms. The tree in that ancient passage doesn't struggle to look robust. It simply is strong. While the world whirls around it, it trusts its hidden roots to draw nourishment, confident that its season will come, and that true abundance isn't about dazzling others but about enduring. You may be in a season of waiting, a stalled project, a business not yet launched, an idea still germinating. Anxiety shrieks, "Will this work? Am I falling behind?" Take heart. Those who rush to bloom may shine briefly, but rarely sustain their glow. Enduring transformative success is born of depth, not speed, clarity, not desperation. That clarity is forged by silencing comparison and trusting the unfolding process day by day. According to Psalm 1, true flourishing isn't driven by hurry, but by patience, endurance, and depth. Take this in not merely as information, but as an inner vibration, and your life will transform. Breathe, feel this moment, and declare, "I accept the divine timing of my harvest. I remain rooted in the ever-flowing source. I am the tree, no longer striving to look prosperous, but embodying prosperity and allowing time to reveal my fruit." Have you noticed how some seem engulfed in turmoil and clamor, yet somehow thrive? They're caught in a toxic loop of bad company, hollow chatter, destructive advice, and draining routines, but they don't see it as chance. It's a choice. Repeated decisions become destiny. Psalm 1 also opens with a little scene diagnosis, not just a moral exhortation. "Blessed is the one who does not walk in step with the wicked, nor stand in the way that sinners take, nor sit in the company of mockers." This isn't mere warning, it's about frequency. The unseen surroundings you allow shape your daily thoughts. Here lies a vital key to genuine abundance. What you hear molds what you believe, and what you believe attracts your reality. I once worked with a gifted visionary, constantly surrounded by cynics whose cutting jokes and disguised critiques eroded his faith in every new idea. Only when he withdrew from that circle and committed to a simple daily practice, rising early, reading sacred passages aloud, journaling affirmations, and unplugging from superficial noise, did clarity return. Within months, his venture took off, not by magic but by aligning his inner world. As he often says, "You become the average of the voices you let echo in your mind." Ridicule isn't only spoken by others, it can occupy your own thoughts. As long as you dwell at that low frequency, you'll starve your growth. The tree meant to bear fruit bows instead to every mocking whisper. Ground yourself then, close your eyes and ask, which voices have shaped my reality? What conversations, content, or companions truly nurture my heart? If you find scorn or fear masquerading as advice, it may be time to leave that table. This isn't about pride, but about consciously protecting your inner space. Finally, remember, this isn't a one-and-done choice, but a daily commitment. Who you surround yourself with, what feeds your soul, and where you plant your attention determine whether you'll stand firm or be swept away. True abundance isn't amassed, it's cultivated, rooted in purpose, and nourished by the same living stream that Psalm 1 celebrates. If you're surrounded by negativity, cynicism, and doubt, remember, you have the power to uproot yourself and replant elsewhere. Criticism may shout, but it's fleeting, like a weed that withers in a breeze. Truth, however, grows quietly with deep roots. Its abundance isn't only financial, but a lasting restorative force. Notice the difference between mocking laughter and joyful laughter. One is corrosive and constricts the spirit, even when disguised as concern. Beneath seemingly harmless banter often hides the poison. You can't, you shouldn't, you'll fail. Spoken loudly or whispered, these words become a mental virus, trapping you in self-doubt and halting bold steps. Psalm 1 doesn't start with praise, but with a caution. Beware the company you keep. We may disapprove of negativity, yet we allow it. Smiling politely, staying silent out of convenience or fear of loneliness. Every moment spent among naysayers lowers your inner frequency, and no crop can thrive in tainted soil. I once knew a talented leader whose relationships wilted under partners who dismissed her values and sensitivity. She stopped dreaming, praying, even planting seeds of hope, until she revisited that ancient passage. She realized her real obstacle wasn't lack of love, but an overabundance of tolerated criticism. With Clarity's tears, she severed toxic ties, and soon her voice, clear and unwavering, guided her steps. When you step away from destructive influences, silence becomes your ally, revealing your intuition and authentic self. The unseen field around you responds not to mental noise, but to the strength of your conviction, flourishing only in an atmosphere of respect. Ask yourself, whose advice have I followed? Which jokes have I let define me? The circle of mockers isn't just external, it can live in your mind. Only you can choose the discomfort of change or the slow poison of critique. You can't pursue both flourishing and frustration. One path leads to growth, the other to stagnation. Psalm 1 invites you to leave the table of mediocrity and take your place at the table of wisdom. As you root yourself in truth, doubt fades into clarity, comparison yields to conviction, and mocking echoes give way to the solid voice of authenticity. Your prosperity begins the moment you decide where to sit. A word often missing in wealth discussions is pleasure. That passage shatters dry obligation, delight, not duty, in sacred truth. This vibrant, wordless joy of alignment isn't a bonus. It's the key to awakening. It transforms your inner state, and when your vibration stays consistent, the world around you mirrors that harmony. You know that spark. Reading sacred words not to earn favor, but because your soul can't stay away. That's not guilt. It's inspiration's fire. Most chase quick fixes, skimming meditation and prayer like chores. But true transformation requires surrender, not control, a state of being, not just a concept. Sacred delight stands in stark contrast to fearful ritualism and the pressure to earn spiritual favor. It's the deep assurance that you already dwell in the right place, even before visible results emerge. Those anchored in this delight are already flourishing, even if the signs remain hidden. I once knew an entrepreneur burdened by debt and dark thoughts who confessed, "I'm not an atheist, I'm just exhausted." In a hospital bed, a caregiver handed him an ancient text opened at a random page, Psalm 1. The first reading brought little, the second brought tears, and by the third, 40 minutes of silent reflection had ignited something within him. He returned to that passage night after night, copying each line by hand, resting it upon his chest. Unbeknownst to him, a profound joy was stirring in that parched heart. A year later, his debts vanished, but more importantly, he gained peace, focus, and a renewed purpose. He even established a clinic, gifting every visitor a handwritten copy of that psalm. His life didn't transform by rote memorization. It shifted because he tapped into a frequency of lasting joy, the delight of communion with the divine, not from fear of punishment, but from the deep pleasure of inner paradise. This joy is what separates mere seekers from the truly transformed. Many chase breakthroughs like fugitives trying to evade consequences, an impersonal scramble for results. Children, by contrast, explore with wonder. The fugitive prays for outcomes. The child prays for the sheer joy of connection. That delight rewires your brain, uplifts your body chemistry, and realigns your personal energy field. When you vibrate in that harmonious joy, opportunities unfold not because you force them, but because you've merged with the path. The Psalms tree doesn't strain for fruit. It lives in quiet alignment, and so everything it does flourishes. Close your eyes, breathe in this possibility, and imagine if each day you sought inner delight instead of chasing milestones. If your first act wasn't a sprint toward goals, but a peaceful sitting with timeless truth until it became your very soil. Picture your mind humming in calm, your heart brimming with gratitude, your body responding with resilience, and your world harmonizing as if the universe were waiting for you to remember your true nature. This is the harvest of genuine delight, rooted in being, not performance. If you're hearing these words, perhaps your soul is poised for that ascent. Effort gives way to silence, urgency to steadfast joy as you plant yourself in the eternal wellspring. That joy is your birthright, your code to abundance. Delight in the divine isn't a prize for having arrived, it's the journey itself. In that joy, you find the perseverance to withstand comparison, the courage to endure when the harvest seems distant. Instead of chasing fleeting feelings, let delight in presence be your guide. That's why so many stumble. They treat sacred texts like instruction manuals, prayers like grocery lists, meditation like a stopwatch. True transformation demands surrender, not schedules, a state of attunement, not a to-do list. I remember a season of utter burnout. No ideas sparked, no projects progressed. One night, drained of striving, I simply sat and read, slowly, silently, breathing each phrase as if it were water to a parched land. In that stillness, peace returned, then a forgotten delight, and finally clarity and creativity. Real strength blooms in the absence of force. Sacred joy isn't an exotic rapture, but an inner refuge where your soul feels seen, loved, and free. In that refuge, you stop seeking approval and start flourishing without effort. When you inhabit that joy, you vibrate as if your wish is already fulfilled, and the unseen realm responds. Take a moment tonight. Sit with a cherished passage or a stirring truth, not to dissect it, but to dwell in it. Repeat softly, "My soul rejoices in truth. My spirit rests in the eternal. My heart blooms in divine timing." In doing so, you'll discover you're not merely inhabiting truth, it's inhabiting you. Abundance ceases to be a distant goal and becomes the natural unfolding of loving the unseen before reaping the seen. True prosperity springs from within, a silent fruit of deep roots nourished by sacred delight, wise choices, and trust in the unfolding moment. The ancient text doesn't urge you to rush, but to remain, not to hurry, but to align. When you align, everything prospers, not by chance or coercion, but by coherent harmony. Breathe deeply, carry this wisdom in your heart, and remember, your next step toward lasting joy is already within you. How can you trust this rhythm when every signal screams urgency? When peers advance faster, pile on achievements, and you remain waiting? That's the ache of comparison fueled by anxiety, fogging your vision. The problem isn't someone else's timeline. It's using their strides to measure your worth. Too many halt their own breakthroughs because they can't wait, swapping the silence of preparation for the clamor of performance, forgetting that real growth honors life's natural cycle: plant, nurture, grow, then reap. Research shows those who master delayed gratification, waiting for richer rewards, tend to enjoy greater success, better health, and deeper relationships. Patience isn't passivity, it's controlled strength, faith in action.